Hi everyone, I'm Aaron, and I'm going to talk to you today about robots. So this talk is all about the zero-day robot, which has been running since June 2018. I'm going to describe kind of what the robot is. I'm going to, kind of go over how you can avoid being taunted by the robot on the mailing list. I'm going to go over how you can make changes to the robot and improve it, which would be really nice. And then I'm going to open it up to, kind of more community-oriented discussion, see how we can kind of work together to improve testing overall, automated testing with, an OVS. Don't forget, you can tweet about anything you see here using the OVSCon Twitter tag. And finally, in every single slide, there is at least one reference to some famous robot. So if you can name at least 10, I'll get you a free coffee from the back. All right, so why is it called zero day? I get asked this sometimes. It does not mean security. It actually more just refers to the fact that we're testing things before they've actually been accepted into the tree. So it's day zero testing, before day one. And interesting stat, we've tested almost 1,000 series just in the last 6 months. So that's pretty cool. It means there's a lot of activity going on, and you should, maybe I'll give yourselves a round of applause for that. That's really good. So the idea for the robot's very simple, right? We have mechanical tasks that we should execute before accepting a patch in tree. We don't have to really think about them. Do tests pass? Is the code style looking okay? Kind of basic things. Does it even apply to the tree? So if those things all pass, then, great. If they don't, we email everyone. Sometimes those tests, because they're mechanical, can be wrong. So the bot is really, you should think of it as informative, not as like a gate. Sometimes it gets things wrong. So the basic flow is like this. Developers come up with patches. They send them to the mailing list. Patchwork receives those mails. And then the robot monitors patchwork for new patches, and then, does its processing. So here's an illustration of the flow that I drew myself, and you see, developers have a big bag of patches. They send them off to the mailing list. Patchwork picks it up, and Daleks come to exterminate us, or the bot tests. So this is the steps that the bot takes. For every single patch series that it discovers, it checks out the current master, it applies the next patch in that series to the master branch that it checked out, it runs check patch, it pushes to this OVS robot GitHub, it runs configure and make, and then it checks if there are any more patches. It goes back and does the same thing. And then finally, at the end, it runs a make disk check. You might not have ever seen it report a make disk check failure. We'll get to that too. But this is what it runs. If it fails, you get a message like this. And it just basically, says, greetings, thanks for your patch. I found this problem, maybe you should check it out, and if there's a bug, you can email me. And, most of the time it does actually catch issues. Sometimes it catches, things that are not real. Sometimes something gets checked in that somehow breaks, and, then the bot kind of spams the list a little bit. We're working on improving that, but if anyone wants to dedicate time to that effort, that would be great. So basically, how can you prevent Bleep Bloop from showing up in your inbox, right? It's really simple. you run check patch on all your patches, right? You run a make dist check for your patch series, just to make sure. Make sure that each patch can build individually. This isn't just good because you won't upset the robot. This is good because we can actually bisect through bugs and find problems. You know, if there's a patch that's if there's a point in the tree that's no longer buildable, we can't actually use that as a candidate for bisecting. So, you know, make sure each patch builds individually. Make sure each patch will apply to the branch cleanly. So what I like to do is after I've done my format patch and I kind of set up all my patches and everything, I'll check out a brand new branch off of master, and I'll just git AM the whole thing. And if it applies, great. If it doesn't apply, I know I've broken something. So, and then finally, if you use GitHub, if you push your branch, you can monitor and sign up for Travis. You can actually monitor the build yourself, and it will build and kind of run all these unit tests and check things with DPDK, without DPDK. It's really pretty good. So I would suggest, these are the steps, right? And just to kind of emphasize the point, you can even automate a lot of this stuff yourself so you don't have to think about it. So like check patch, you can run here, I show you, you can run it as a commit hook. And then anytime you try to commit, check patch will actually stop you from committing a patch that blows up. So that's what I do. And I would definitely recommend doing it as well for all of you. So I'll leave that up if anyone wants to take a picture, but okay, maybe not. All right, so once the bot has picked up your patch, you can actually find out what's going on. You can go to patchwork, you can look up the series ID for your patch, and then you can go to Travis and actually see the robot having pushed your patches and kicking off the build. So you can monitor it, you can make sure that things are looking okay. I'd like to improve that monitoring. I'd like to make it so that the developer didn't have to even go check that. It would be really nice if we could run some other process or something else that could actually monitor those Travis builds. I know it's possible, and kind of email people if it's broken. I don't really want to email the list too much because I don't want it to be too spammy, but it is nice to get that kind of feedback pretty immediate. Email's nice that way. So, and this is what the Travis view looks like. So here we had the first patch being built by Travis just 2 days ago from the robot. So I took a screenshot. It was all automated, so no one got involved. The robot picked up the patch, sent it off to GitHub, and then the Travis build kicked off. So it was kind of cool. Okay, so the last thing about kind of the mechanics of the robot and what it's doing. Make dist check does not get reported because the tests are sometimes unreliable. So this is another thing I'd really ask for people to kind of help out with. I think right now the most recent intermittent failing test is this OVN test that I've called out. This ensure one gateway controller doesn't restart. But there could be other tests. We had some other tests that kind of intermittently failed. I know Timothy reported one, and it was related to some ton devices and all that. So it could be an artifact of the system that we're on. It could be a lot of things. So I don't necessarily want to report those just yet. I don't feel confident in it. But if anyone wants to spend time kind of improving the dist check system and running the robot themselves and finding all those little bits, that would be great. But maybe you don't care about my robot. Maybe you want your own robot, because who doesn't? And maybe you want to just be lazy like me and let a robot do all the tests on your laptop for all your development work. Either way, you can actually go to this GitHub here. This has the OVS robot code in it, and it has I think everything you should need to be able to build your own robot. It's all, here are kind of like the steps, right? So clone the repository, go to this third-party directory, run the build script, set up some Jenkins and pwmon files, import the config, because there's already a config there, and then you can set up a Jenkins job to run that pwmon to monitor patchwork and do the CI submit to submit it back to Jenkins, or kind of whatever you want. But that will have all the steps that the robot's taking, and that's kind of how you can make changes. And this is what it would look like. So this is a view of this is the actual robot. This is how I look at it and monitor it and see things that have gone wrong. So yeah, I called it upstream build from PW. You can call your robot whatever you want. As far as reporting goes, right now we do a lot of emails. But one thing that would be nice is using that check system. So Patchwork supports this idea of checks. And these are like a test name or a test ID, a status, and then some extra data in there. So like you can say why the test failed, or give some other hints, or whatever. It can be useful like to not spam the list with lots of different test results, but to still aggregate those test results in some place so that when a maintainer is going to apply a patch, they can actually go and look and kind of see what's happening and see, okay, I see there are extra tests here that failed. And it's pretty easy to actually push data that way. It's, push check information in. You can do it with curl. It's just a REST API, so it's not like needing any special frameworks or anything. So, and here's kind of what the checks look like. So this is kind of a view in Patchwork. If you actually were looking at a series, or in this case, a specific patch, you can actually see like the checks that are being run currently. So I highlighted there's one warning, one success. You can kind of see why, a description of why things failed. So it's pretty useful. Some other work that we're doing is we're actually partnering with the UNH Interoperability Lab. They currently do testing for DPDK, performance testing. The person there, my contact there, is Jeremy Pilchik, and he's gonna like kind of work with this robot that we have, and we're gonna integrate that there, or wherever the actual hardware may be. And we're gonna do some more like OVS DPDK testing. We're gonna do some NFV testing. It's gonna be that we have some big plans for it. And they currently have a public dashboard. Right now they just report performance data on there. Maybe there's room for like OVS information as well. So, OVS performance or OVS functionality, things like that. So I'm pretty excited about that. And, finally, the thing is, like, if you really want to help, you can send me hardware. I won't actually turn it down. Mellanox actually did ship some hardware, so we'll be hooking it up. Some other famous hardware maker also offered me some hardware, and that was a while ago, and it hasn't shown up on my doorstep, but maybe it will, and I'll be lucky, and it will be a good Christmas. But anyone else that wants to send me hardware, no problems. I'll hook it up to the robot, and we'll kick off patches. We'll kick off tests. We'll do reporting. Not an issue. The other thing you can do if you want to contribute is send some patches, not just to the robot, but to OVS. So we have all these test suites. Some of them require like super user privileges. Maybe there's a way to rewrite them so that they don't, or maybe there's a way to run them in such a way that they can be isolated, or we can use them on Travis, or we can do other things so we can keep them working. Or maybe you found an unreliable test and you can fix it. That would be great too. I really want to be able to have like disk check errors and those kind of things get reported to the list so that we all actually have a better code base, and I don't get bugs at 3 a.m. So it would be good. Feel free. All right, so I've left about 10 minutes in the talk to have people have discussions, questions, comments, all that, so that we can kind of, see where things are. Did anyone figure out any of the robot references even?
The robot references were great. Thank you. We actually have even a little extra time because we're running ahead of schedule at the moment. So you can ignore my bit about being not making me really anxious.
Okay, good.
All right. Anybody have any questions? I realize it's early in the morning, but feel free to come up to one of the mics and give your question. And if yep, there we go.
Hi, Aaron. So I just have a question. Is there ever an intent to use the zero-day robot to actually gate patches, or will it always remain informative?
I get a little nervous about using like a machine to block patches coming in because it's a robot, right? It's robotic. So there will be mechanical steps that it follows. Usually when it follows those steps, it finds a real problem. But sometimes it will find something that's, not an issue. And I don't want to have that be like the reason that code gets accepted. Plus, I don't trust robots.
Okay, thanks.
So having the robot as a gate would work better if we had a perfect test suite that always passed if the code was correct. But as of now, we don't have a perfect test suite. Some of the tests have timing sensitivities in them that they should not, but currently they do. So if we can fix those, then that would at least be one fewer reason not to make it a gate.
So you mentioned that it's kind of difficult to figure out the branch name in Git that corresponds to your patchwork series. You were actually kind enough to email me about a Travis breakage the other day, which is how I found out about this thing. I didn't know it existed. How do I do that for myself?
You mean how do you figure out
the branch name?
The build name, yeah. So I should have put that in, thank you. So Travis will, or the robot will check out a new branch after it checks out master called series underscore and then your series ID. So when you go to Travis, every branch that's being built will be series underscore and then some series ID. So you just have to kind of search for it for now.
Okay.
Sorry. But patch is welcome, and if you can think of a better way, I would definitely merge that because like I said, I want it to, be a little more friendly.
Could we simply use the patchwork ID instead of generating a new series ID?
No, that series ID is the patchwork series ID.
Oh, it is?
Yeah. Okay. So when you go to patchwork, every series has some number that's like a series ID, and so that's what we use. That's what actually gets passed around.
Gotcha. So, okay. I'm just not looking in the right place then. Thanks.
Okay.
So Patchwork now, as I understand it, has a way to add results, testing results to patches. Are we adding that through the robot now?
That we should do that. We're not yet. So, but yes, we should be doing that.
Is that difficult? Do you need to coordinate with the Patchwork owners?
So my understanding is it requires an access to the project from some user account, and otherwise it's just curl to the series with metadata. So it's probably simple, and
I can give you that access. Just send me an email, and we'll make it happen.
Awesome.
Ian.
Yeah. So this is great work. Really kind of helps out the committers. One thing I would say is, hardware aside, if we got that in place, do you think that there's scope to actually put in basic performance testing for patches as well?
Yeah. So, okay, let me just understand. So, should we put in performance testing in the robot? Is that what you're asking?
I'm thinking even if we expanded the test suite, could you get basic P2P, PVP patches?
Yeah. So performance testing is a complicated topic because it usually involves like what specific tests you're running and what hardware it was on and what, say NICs are involved and all that. And then people start asking questions and upper level management asks questions and like lawyers get involved. And so I like kind of the UNH folks being in charge of that because they already have to do that. So probably the partnering with them is a better way to get performance data and performance tests being run. But like from a functional standpoint, I think that there's still value in having the robot like build, execute on specific pieces of hardware with specific NICs and starting, say, specific PMDs and all that. We've had PMDs broken before, and it would be really nice to be able to kind of measure that, or rather report on that when it happens.
Thanks.
So you mentioned people sending you hardware. I've found that we're pretty collaborative in this section of the industry. And in one interesting case at VMware, vendor A actually lent us some of vendor B's hardware. So it's pretty friendly. So one thing that might be possible to make the tests more reliable is that we have a feature in the tests where if at make time you pass in the flag recheck equals yes, then it will, if a test fails, it'll try it again. It might be hard to pass that down through disk check, and maybe that's why you...
Nope, it's not.
Oh, okay.
We're doing that. But,
okay. Sometimes it fails twice?
Yeah, it does.
All right.
So the funny thing is sometimes like a test will fail in the first, and then a different one will fail in the second, during the recheck. So
well,
I think it's definitely some transient property of the system, or
the recheck should only recheck the ones that failed the first time. So that
I mean, at least the output that I have, it seems to be retesting them all, but maybe I'm passing the flag wrong.
okay. Well, maybe we should try to debug that together at some point.
Yeah.
Or at least send a bug report, and I'll take a look at it.
Awesome.
Do we have any other questions? We still have time. Come on, nobody interested in robots? Looks like maybe we have one more here. Even if we don't, since he's going by the mic, I'm going to make him ask a question. Go ahead.
Aaron, in the past you talked about federating the robot and trying to set up something like that. So have you any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I think the federating the robot really is going to probably be more like having people submit their checks to that patchwork interface. I think like trying to kind of have people coordinate directly with each other, while that's ideal, seems to get hung up with some red tape. So maybe it's best if we have this kind of initial implementation of something, or maybe we could go with, like, I know Justin had emailed and said, hey, there's no patch, so maybe we can switch to using that. I don't really care. But if everyone's running something anyway and monitoring, and they have their own set of tests that they want to execute and can report that to Patchwork, that's great. And maybe that's the answer.
Can same or similar thing be taken to the DPDK side? Is it too far-fetched, Thomas? Hint, hint.
So believe it or not, I'll let Thomas answer, because I know he's walking over to the mic, but I'll also try and answer. DPDK actually has a lot of this stuff already. The only thing is DPDK doesn't email their list. They have a separate list for emailing that. But like, believe it or not, that check API was done because of DPDK in Patchwork. So yeah, DPDK has a lot of this stuff. So they're quite cutting edge. Did I get it right? Okay, good.
Anybody else?